Good afternoon and welcome to everybody. My name is Tepo Khapane. I'm the product lead for Blackbullion South Africa. Shoo, it's been one hell of a week, but I'm so glad that we're having this session. And please feel free to send all your messages in the chat. Let us know who are you, where you from, where you watching from. Could be a nice opportunity to do a little bit of some networking, right? So much to look forward to today. It's a pleasure to be your host, and we'll take a moment today to reflect on the remarkable journey that we've had at Black Bullion South Africa. So much happened in 2024, some beautiful, beautiful things. But today we're flipping the coin and we're going to share some insights, some things that we've learned from some of our young people on the Black Bullion platform. So this webinar is a great, incredible opportunity to celebrate some of the things that we've learned from some of our users. We'll highlight some key successes. We'll share some inspiring stories. We'll acknowledge the vital role that some of our delivery partners play as well. So we're super excited and look forward to hosting you for the next hour. So a few house rules and things to take note of. Please use the chat box to ask questions, to interact with me, other attendees, members of the Black Bullion South Africa team. And please also note that the webinar is being recorded. So we will share a link to the recording and a document that outlines some of our insights. So there's a lot of things to look forward to in terms of today's session. You can also catch us on the socials. So we're big on social media. We are on X, we are on Facebook, we've got a page, we are on LinkedIn, you can find us on Instagram, and of course you can also pop us an email with any and every single question that you might have about the platform. So blackbullion@wafunda.com is exactly where you will find us. So to get us started today, I'm going to hand over to Liana De Beer. She is the founder and CEO of Wafunda, and she is the fuel for some of the amazing work that we do. She will give us an overview of Wafunda. She'll tell us a bit about the Black Bullion platform and our partnership with the Sanlam Foundation. So we'll introduce her and then I will come back. Liana, over to you.
Thank you, Tepo. Good afternoon, everyone. We're so happy to have you all here today. Thank you for spending the next hour with us to talk about the impact that we've had on the Black Bullion South African platform to date. We thought it just makes sense to speak a little bit about Wafunda and the story behind Black Bullion and how we got here today and what makes up the passion and the reasoning for launching and working on this platform and really trying to tackle the lack of financial education with young people in South Africa. So Wafunda is a social impact enterprise, and we really focus on expanding both access and opportunity, economic opportunity for young people in South Africa. At our core, our mission is to ensure that there's upward mobility for young people by trying to see what are the resources they need and to ensure that they have those resources to really thrive in the world. At the moment, we do that through three products. Our first product at Wafunda is Black Bullion South Africa, which is focused on financial literacy and education, and which we all focus on today. But we also maintain and manage the crowdfunding and bursary management technology for our parent company, Phoenix. And then thirdly, we also provide education financing for excluded youth in South Africa through our income share agreement fund or alternative loan product. As I mentioned, Phoenix, I just want to highlight the relationship. I think that's really important. I'm not sure how many of you are aware that Phoenix is our parent and that Wafunda was birthed out of Phoenix in 2020 because we really wanted to expand on the work that Phoenix was already doing in the tertiary education landscape of trying to provide as many young people as possible opportunity to continue their tertiary education in South Africa. So it is actually Phoenix and Phoenix students that got us to where we are today. In 2020, when I was CEO of Phoenix, we commissioned a study where we wanted to understand from, at that point, tertiary education students, what is the things that they self-select as thrive drivers? What were the things that young people said that they need in order to succeed on their academic journeys. And one of the top things that came out without being prompted from a self-selection point of view was financial literacy and financial education. Young people were telling us over and over again they do not have the financial tools or the financial knowledge to manage their financing, to manage money, to manage bursaries, and to even partake in a lot of the economic value that existed because they didn't know how to access it. So it was for us quite a predetermined feeling when a few months later, one of our senior managers happened to be in London at a Google event and met the CEO and founder of a company called Blackbullion Global, or Blackbullion. We loved this product. We then did research and engaged this Blackbullion product, and we were immediately drawn to it for several reasons. Firstly, what we really liked about Blackbullion Global as a platform is that it was youth focus or student focus. It wasn't a general financial literacy product, but something that was very much geared to a specific audience, which for us is really important because it's very different to speak to an 18-year-old versus a 65-year-old when it comes to financial literacy or education. Secondly, something that we really loved about the platform is that it was digital, it was gamified, it was online, it was interactive, and it was focused on personal finances. So all of these things for us was really, really appealing. We then partnered with Blackbullion Global to deliver this content in South Africa, but really focus on localizing and ensuring that we customize some of the global content so that it is relevant for youth in South Africa. Our approach to content is twofold. On the one hand, it's really important that some of the content is universal and global so that young people can feel part of an international community, that there's aspiration around what is achievable to partake in financial markets. But then secondly, made really sure that the content was rooted in the realities of young people in South Africa and that it was relevant for what young people face, which might be very different from what someone faces in London. We want to help young people make better money decisions now so that in the future they can build better lives for themselves. So Blackbullion is not just a one-size-fits-all course, but rather a financial companion. I'm sure you would have heard this during your onboarding sessions or during your engagement with the team already. We want to be part of those key money moments when young people engage them. We have a library that we consistently update and evolve based on both market trends, but also based on what young people are telling us they need to see more of, or what you maybe as a partner would tell us you want to see more of. We have 34 modules on the platform at the moment, as well as 2 tools. The one is our spending snapshot tool, which is for budgeting purposes. And then we also have a money mindset tool, which starts focusing on money personalities and becomes more individualized, which is a wonderful way for someone to learn more about themselves, their psychology behind finance, and how they engage with finance. And then lastly, apart from the platform being interactive with quizzes as you go through the content, we also try to build an ongoing community off the platform as well. And we do that through things like webinars and competitions and incentives. So you both have in-platform experience as a youth user, but you're also part of this bigger community. So that really brings us to where we are today and our partnership with Sanlam Foundation. We're very, very proud to have established partnership with Sanlam Foundation because it allows us to increase the accessibility of the platform and really drive access for young people. Our partnership allows us to bring this impact and focus on this impact because we can get down and ensure that the work and the content is impactful, it's relevant, instead of stressing about bringing, commercial viable things into the business. Our aim with Sanlam Foundation is to onboard 60,000 users in the next few years. We feel like there should be millions of young people using and getting access to financial literacy, but that is what we're trying to hope, and we can change the life of 16,000 young people as well as their families. We want to ensure that young people feel financially savvy, that they feel financially confident, and that they have the financial tools to live the life of their dreams. So today we want to take a moment to look at the platform impact as well as the engagement and how this has impacted your youth and your beneficiaries. So thank you for being here, and I'm going to hand over back to Tsepo to get into the meat of the impact feedback.
Thank you so much for that, Leona. Just giving us a fantastic overview of, the great work that Wafunda does, telling everybody a bit about Blackbullion South Africa, and of course our partnership with Sanlam Foundation. I think it's really important to stress that this isn't a course. It is a financial companion to help young people when they're experiencing different money moments. So that's the way in which we've laid the content out. That's the way in which we think about some of these things. So I will delve into our delivery partners, our users. We'll share some insights. And later on, we'll be joined by one of our Blackbullion users and a representative from My Student House, who's one of our delivery partners. They've given more than 300 of their student tenants access to Blackbullion. So we'll get an opportunity to hear from some other voices as well, which I think is really, really amazing. So in terms of some of our delivery partners, this is where things get super, super interesting. In 2024, we were proud to secure 19 new delivery partners who help us to expand our reach. So youth get access to the Blackbullion platform through carefully selected educational institutions, youth development organizations, and like-minded partners who share our vision for empowering the next generation. So thanks to this partnership with Sanlam Foundation, these partners are given free access to Blackbullion, which they can then offer to their different youth cohorts. So almost creating this meaningful impact across the country. And we talk about across the country. As you can see, some of our delivery partners are all over. So 12 of them give us a national footprint, so we're able to reach young people across the country. 7 of them are based in the Western Cape, 3 are based in Gauteng, 1 is in Limpopo. And these partners support students in higher education, but they also support youth through different development opportunities. So it's pretty much spread across the country. So getting into our users in 2024, who are these individuals? What do they look like? What are their goals? What are their ambitions? And how have we been engaging with the platform is what we're going to get into next. So in terms of the user demographics and who these young people are, at the end of 2024, we had a total of 6,633 registered users on the Blackbullion platform. 3,891 of these users were new users that were captured throughout the year. And this includes, as I mentioned, tertiary students, those who are employed, youth in various skills development programs. The makeup of these students, and when we look at their demographics, which I think is super interesting, but also not too surprising, is that a majority of our users are young women, right? Big percentage of them are young women. And then when we look at the race, a majority of our users are black, and then there's also a little bit of a split. So in terms of the gender and the race, it's an interesting split, but the majority of them are young women in terms of who the audience on the platform are. When we look at their ages, a majority of our users are between the ages of 17 and 25. So 59% of them are within that age bracket. Then 38% of them are between the ages of 26 and 35. And then 3% are 36 and a little bit older. And we'll explain a little bit later where the 36 plus actually comes from. But majority of our users are young people. So before users get access to the Blackbullion platform, we basically send them a baseline survey. And this baseline survey is important because it gives us an opportunity to better understand who our users are. What are their current financial knowledge? What are their specific needs? And then it gives us an opportunity to be able to measure over time what their progress is on the platform, and then by also getting information through our various surveys. So this is some of the information that has come out from our baseline survey. So the baseline survey was run between the 1st of January to the 30th of June 2024. We had 564 young people responding to our baseline survey. And what has come out of this survey is a number of things. From a confidence point of view, so before users came onto the platform, 30% of them felt that they do struggle with managing their money, right? So 30% did say they struggle with managing their money. 36% of them did feel confident when it comes to their money. So they've got an element of, I'm able to manage it. When we look at financial inclusion, which is things like bank accounts and financial assets and medical aid, 75% of them had a bank account, so a personal bank account. And then 7% of them had access to medical aid and your financial investments. And that's not too surprising to us. So we know that most of our young people on the platform don't have these huge incomes. So they've got a stipend and an allowance. So they're not really able to get medical aid or get all these different types of assets. And then in terms of the 75% of them having bank accounts, we do know that some of our young people come from rural areas coming into urban spaces for school and so forth. And so they may never have been exposed to getting a bank account. But essentially, it was quite interesting to see where their confidence levels are before they come onto the platform. And then from a financial inclusion point of view, what do they already have? And then we looked at things like, their money habits. We looked at things like their levels of debt. We looked at things like what were their expectations of the platform? What were they hoping to learn? And when we look at their money habits, 41% of them already had a budget in place to help manage their finances. So we know that at least some of them are already starting to build a relationship with their money. Then we also noted that 26% of them were sending money home. So whether it's to their family, to their friends, or to charity. And then when we look at some of the expectations they had around what they were hoping to learn on the platform, 43% of them wanted to learn as much as they could. So they were open to learning about crypto and everything. 17% of them just wanted to avoid making bad financial decisions. And then 28% of them aimed to want to be able to manage their current finances better so that they can make better choices. And then when we look at things from a debt point of view, right, and this is where it also gets quite interesting, 39% of them were already debt free, right? And then we had another group of 17 of them that reported having good debt. And by good debt, we're referring to student loans. So a number of them do have student loans, which makes sense. And then what was quite scary for us was this group that already had other debt outside of their student loans, which is a significant number when you look at it. So significant group of them actually having debt, so more than 50%, which is a really, really big number. So we noted that quite a number of our young people do have some debt. The other really interesting thing that we introduced in our surveys, because we do engage with our users on a regular basis to just try and see where they are, is that in August of 2024, we decided to introduce projective techniques in some of our surveys. So these are qualitative research methods to help uncover, the hidden emotions, desires, and motivations around money. So things that young people might not express directly, either because they are unconscious of these things or because they were quite shy or too sensitive to discuss them openly. So we started to introduce this into some of our surveys. And as an example, one of the questions we had asked them is, which of these images below best represents how you feel about managing your finances? So this idea of emotions and feelings. And then we wanted to know which image did you select and why did you select that image. So things like walking the tightrope, things like being zen, things like the ostrich having its head buried in the sand. So these were the images that we had shared. It was very interesting to see some of the comments that actually came from some of these young people. So as an example, they were in the minority, but we did note that some young people were managing their money well. So as an example, we have a user here saying, I'm managing my finances with no difficulties. I'm avoiding unnecessary debts and wasting money. I feel inner peace as I am prioritizing my financial stability through budgeting, which I learned on the Blackbullion platform. Then another user saying, I'm at a point where I can make good financial decisions and I am at peace, even though there's still a long way to go. So when it comes to managing my money. So when the projective techniques were introduced, users already had started interacting with the platform. So some of them start to mention Blackbullion and what they're starting to do with it. Another thing that we also noted is a number of them spoke about financial independence and wanting to achieve that type of stability. So we had users saying things like, I'm on an interesting money journey to financial independence, and I'm learning a lot. Others saying it's quite difficult learning to manage your money It's a little bit of a slow burn, but it is something that that's the journey that I'm on, and I understand that it'll be difficult, but financial stability and independence is very, very important to me. The other thing that also came up, and for us, we weren't shocked, but the level of responses was quite interesting, is around financial stress and anxiety. So a number of young people saying, we're under financial stress. So they were using phrases like walking on a tightrope, drowning in debt, burdened by responsibilities. And I think this underscores that widespread fear of financial instability. So, I mean, when you read some of the responses that we gathered from young people, things like, I'm feeling stressed. I feel like I have a lot of responsibilities and I can't manage them with my allowance. Anything that has to do with money stresses me. And other young people saying, sometimes I feel like managing my money becomes too difficult and overwhelming. Some months I have more expenses than others, and it sort of makes it tricky to get through the month. So, this idea of financial stress and anxiety kept coming up. In fact, we actually used this as the basis for a webinar that we did yesterday. So, we actually did a webinar yesterday in partnership with the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, where we shared the 10 ingredients with the young people to help them better manage their stress in relation to money. So, this helped us to basically come up with this webinar for young people. The other thing that came up is just the challenges around budgeting. So not just creating the budget, but sticking to the budget, right? So young people saying, I chose this specific image because I struggle to stick to my budget, or saying things like, I tend to use all my money and then struggle through most of the month. So just young people sharing where they are in terms of their finances. And then the last thing that we noted from some of the responses is around the income level. So we know that young people don't have access to huge sums of money. And it's something that definitely does stress them out as well. So, one saying, I feel like I've got a lot of financial responsibilities and my income is quite low. Another saying, I'm struggling to save money for my university fees since I am not working. So, from a baseline survey, a lot of very interesting information came out, and we actually utilized some of that to create other content. As I've mentioned, the webinar that we did yesterday in partnership with SADC, and bringing in a clinical psychologist to guide young people along some of these journeys. So, that's sort of the entry point for some of our users coming onto the platform and us getting a better understanding of who they are and some of the challenges that they are experiencing. And throughout this webinar, if you do have any questions, any comments, please do feel free to get into the chat. You can interact with me and, of course, the rest of the team. And as I mentioned, we will be sharing these slides, and, of course, we'll also share a recording of this session as well. So once users have had a minimum of 3 months access to the platform, that's when we check in with them to see where they are. So that's when the outcome survey comes in, and we try and see whether the platform has an impact on young people and where are they in their journey in terms of money. So now we're going to be sharing what some of that information looks like. So based on the surveys that we've sent out, we're at 632 responses. And this is what young people were saying after them exposed to the platform, but not just the platform, all the other community building that we do, the webinars, the campaigns, the incentives. So 90% of our users find the platform relevant for their life stage. And I think this speaks to the fact that within the content that we create, we're constantly checking in with our users so that the content that we develop is a true reflection of what young people are going through. So, as an example, one of the things that we've noted are the dangers of gambling. A lot of young people are gambling, sports betting, and so forth. So, we're currently working on content around that. 81% of our users find the platform easy to navigate. So from a UX point of view, it's really important that it's quite easy for them to get through all of the content and the platform. And then we also find that 92% of our users find Blackbullion South Africa to be quite informative. So what's really important is we don't give our young people financial advice, we guide them along that journey. So when they're experiencing a money moment, they then have the content to help them make better decisions. So maybe you're thinking of saving or investing or whatever the case may be, you've got content to help you better understand all the terminology, all the jargon, but that you can also make better decisions with your money as well. So some more user feedback that we've received from some of our users. So 71% of our users feel more knowledgeable about personal finance topics like saving and budgeting and investing. And I think that speaks to just simplifying it, making it very real for young people. And then only 38% of our users trust financial institutions with their finances, which I think is super, super interesting. So even when we're doing induction sessions on the ground with users, a lot of them talk about financial institutions and the mistrust around that. And so even within our outcome survey, it still comes out where, a lot of our young people are saying we don't really trust financial institutions. But I think when you have the knowledge and you learn a bit more about saving and investing, you're then able to make better decisions with your money. And then over 50% of our users use Black Bullion as their main source of financial education. So we do know that young people are exposed to a lot of financial education, whether it's a podcast or whether it's social media or whether it's a friend or a family member or their parents. But we're really proud that 50% of them use Black Bullion as their main source. So when they are experiencing that money moment, they can come back onto the platform to get some additional information. Then when we look at the engagement, particularly of our new users, right? So you want to see how many of them are actually engaging with the content. 50% of our new registered users in 2024 engaged with the content to an extent that their participation can be measured. So these are individuals that, were reading articles, they were completing our pathways. So our pathways are interactive lessons that have a built-in quiz and some additional tools, or they, were interacting with the budgeting tool or the money personality tool that Liana had spoken a bit about earlier on. So these are individuals that were reading articles, they were engaging with some of the content. A total of 1,790 of these new users were actively spending time on the platform. In terms of the lessons that were started and completed in terms of our pathways, there was 2,260. And then in terms of the articles themselves, there was 3,414. And of course, we're also open to doing a demo as well of what the Black Bullion platform looks like. So later on, we'll share contact details of how you can connect with us, and we can actually show you what the articles look like, what the lessons look like, and of course, what the various tools on the platform look like. Then in terms of, just confidence and knowledge gained, I think this was another interesting thing for us. Is what we realized is that the more a young person engages with the platform, that helps to build their confidence, it increases their knowledge in money, right? So financial confidence tends to increase with a deeper platform engagement. So we looked at those users that were engaging and how did they feel in terms of their confidence levels, in terms of their knowledge. So users who engage more reported feeling, more knowledgeable about budgeting, saving, and then managing their debt. So 96% of our respondents reported a general improvement in their financial knowledge. So, I know a little bit more about saving, investing, crypto, all of that. And then we had 41% of them saying, I noticed small improvement. And then 67% of them said it was a significant improvement. So I learned quite a lot in terms of just learning, but then also the confidence levels as well. And then when we look at the shifts in financial attitudes, what we notice is that users are developing healthier financial attitudes as they engage more deeply with the platform. So, most of our users reported improved attitudes toward building good financial habits. So this greater engagement was also linked to a couple of other things as we're going through the data. So the more a user engages with the content, there's then increased trust in financial institutions, because I think now you better understand the jargon and how these things work. The other thing that we noted in terms of greater engagement is that there's then a reduction in feeling the financial pressure and stress, but also feeling that uncertainty about where your money is going. And so what we could see there is that 61% of our respondents indicated a significant improvement in their approach to managing money. So we definitely saw some improvements from these young people. And then when we move over to behavior and seeing if, in their day-to-day, was there change in the way in which they behave with money? Once again, increased engagement was translating into something positive. So it was translating into real behavioral changes. So young people just becoming a little bit more proactive with their money. So 52% of users, now sticking to a budget. So having created the budget and now pretty much sticking to the budget. And then 61% of them reporting significant improvement in making better financial decisions. So young people saying we're starting to make better decisions with our money. Now that we know a little bit more, we're feeling a little bit more confident, we feel like we're making better decisions with our money, which for us is ultimately such an important aspect of it. So the key insights and the key things that we draw from a lot of the information and the data is just around, consistent engagement with the platform is really, really important. And it leads to positive financial outcomes. So what the data is basically telling us and what users are reporting back to us is that, that increased platform engagement, it drives clear improvements in terms of financial confidence, in terms of knowledge, in terms of positive attitudes, in terms of, just making smarter decisions with your money. The platform is helping young South Africans to take control of their money and their confidence. So the way in which we collect the information is through our surveys. It's through the induction sessions that we do with users on the ground. It's information that we pull directly from the platform, as it's got some great analytics, so we're able to see what articles are young people reading as they're going through the various pathways, what score are they getting, and then information that our delivery partners share with us as well, just letting us know, on the ground, what are young people saying in terms of the platform. But for us, it's quite encouraging, and there's always room for improvement, room for gathering data in a better way, room for improving questions, room for engaging users on a more consistent basis. And then the last bit of this is, once again, we decided to use some of those projective techniques for our follow up survey to pretty much just see how young people feel specifically about Black Bullion. So the question we had asked our users is, if Black Bullion was a person, what kind of person would they be? And to help them think, or to potentially choose a character from a TV series, we actually shared the below image with them. So we've got Generations there, we've got Skim Sam, we've got Uzalo, big, big, big shows on SABC. We've got Takalani Sesame, we've got the Avengers and all these different superheroes, and then we've got Bafana Bafana, who are making us very, very proud at the moment. So the timing was also quite good in terms of that. And these were some of the responses that we received from some of our young people. So from an educational and informative point of view, many young people spoke a bit about Takalani Sesame and Skim Sam. And some of the things that young people were saying is that, they selected Takalani Sesame because the Black Bullion platform helps to break down complex subjects into smaller concepts. So things like selecting Moshe, who's one of the characters at Takalani Sesame, saying, when I was young, I would watch the show every morning. And looking back, I realized how informative the show was because of how it was presented. And the educational information that's presented on Black Bullion is a simple way to understand money. So, them starting to select some of these characters and talking a bit about the platform as well. They did speak about the fact that the content is relatable and realistic. So, selecting specific shows like Skim Sami was one of them as well. I just want to bring back my slides that have decided to go on holiday. Let's give me a second. Just give me a sec as I bring back my slides. Apologies if you just give me a sec. I think it'll also be a good chance to read some comments as well while I get this going on my end and bringing the slides back up. It sort of just decided to shut down on its own. But yeah, we're talking a bit about those projective techniques and shows like Skim Sami and Generations and some of the other shows that young people had noted. So I'm just bringing that back up onto my screen. Just give me a second. There we go. Should be coming up now. I'm also noting some of the questions as well in the chat, so I am starring them so that we can get into some of them at the end of the session as well. Just some technical issues with the stream itself, but yeah, working to just get those slides back onto the screen. If you just give us a second. Yeah, you can tell we're definitely coming to the end of the week. When technology starts to bite you like this, it's definitely coming towards the end of the week. So apologies for that and the technical issues. I'm just going to go back to that slide. So yeah, just talking about those different projective techniques. We sort of spoke a bit about Takalani, Sesame, Scheme Sami is one that uses as well. We're also speaking a bit about in relation to the relatability and the realistic narrative that we sometimes try to portray on the platform as well. So users saying Skim Sami as an example because it's trying to help the upcoming generation. So we're referring to the Black Bullion platform. Once again, Skim Sami is a show that addresses real life challenges, including financial struggles, education, and personal growth. Similarly, Black Bullion focuses on practical financial education, equipping students with the tools they need. And then once again, Skim Sami just giving us that realistic view of things. And then some even mentioning things like generations, the legacy, speaking a bit about just that generational wealth building. So something like I choose the one with generations, the legacy. I feel like Black Bullion is a great way to help you build your wealth. So saying those number of things around just those projective techniques. So while we get that all sorted out, it's a great opportunity to actually bring in some special guests that we invited. So, we're doing all that we can within the financial education space to help young people to build a relationship with their money. So, whether it's the webinars, whether it's the competitions and campaigns, whether it's introducing new content to the platform, we're pretty much doing all that we can do to help young people build a relationship with their money. And that's thanks to our delivery partners, that's thanks to Sanlam Foundation for helping us to be able to do that. But I think it's also really important to just hear from the people who use the platform on a day to day basis and sort of get their sense of what the Black Bullion experience has been like. So I'm going to introduce Daisy Ndebele. She's a fourth year chemical engineering student at Stellenbosch University. She joined Black Bullion through one of our delivery partners called Tomorrow Trust. So I'm going to bring her onto screen as well and have a little bit of a chat with her. Hey Daisy, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Lovely, lovely. Thank you so much for joining us for this session. It's always lovely to just hear directly from young people. I'm just curious to know about what your overall experience on the Black Bullion platform has been like.
I would say for me, firstly, it was challenging my own perspectives that I had about money. So I think that was first when I learned about my money personality because I didn't know that was a thing. So I think one of the biggest things that I learned is actually you have a relationship with money, and so just understanding how personally I engage with it. And how it can be emotionally driven and stuff. So I think that was like really one of the core principles that I never knew like before doing like the money personality pathway thing. So I think that's been just like a really, really good I think start into like learning about finances, just understanding how I as a person view it. So I think that's one thing that the platform did very, very well when I started engaging with it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think this idea of money personalities is such an interesting one. And it's one that I was also learning about. In terms of engaging with all the different types of content on the platform, what would you say is the biggest money lesson you learned while utilizing the platform?
I would say budgeting. I think the first thing that I experimented with was the spending snapshot. So I think once I actually had an overview of like, oh my gosh, this is how much money I actually get throughout the year. And then when I look at what I have left over, I was like, okay, this is actually quite shocking to see that I'm probably not managing my money well. So I think that's really just been the best thing that I've engaged with, like the spending snapshot and the budgeting pathway. I think that's like just so fundamental because yeah, budgeting is like a life skill. Like I feel like now I'm better in terms of like managing my money and stuff. I have kind of like a rule with myself, like don't touch that allowance if you haven't planned for it. So I think yeah, that's for me personally, yes.
And I absolutely love that lesson because I think budgeting can be so difficult and almost a little bit of a shock because now you're seeing the way in which you spend money, which can always sometimes be a little bit of a shock. But I agree. I think budgeting is a really great one. And then just lastly, Daisy, I'm just keen to know from you, what do you think young people should have access not only to Black Bullion, but just to financial education as a whole?
I personally think that if I think about like how I grew up, you don't talk about money enough, and so sometimes you get like financial advice from the incorrect kind of places. For example, now I think amongst friends and stuff, people think gambling is an investment, and I'm kind of like, no. So I think it's just really getting the core principles to young people, because I feel like there isn't a lot that's being said about money, like teaching us how to invest, when to start investing, thinking about long term instead of like our short term goals as well. So I think financial education plays a big role in that, because it kind of does set you up for like your career success as well. Because it's no use like having this really high earning salary and then you still, end up in debt, which is also one of the biggest problems like here in South Africa, especially now, yeah, amongst young people. So I think it's just really important, like making sure that like they have access to those things, like start thinking about your retirement plan, tax savings. These are things that I personally didn't think about, but then once I started engaging in financial education, it just opens that up. And I think one thing that I love is, like, for example, if you read the articles, like it kind of gives you that curiosity to go out and engage more with like the concepts. So now I just started listening to a financial podcast that's teaching money as a tool. So I was like, okay, that was a concept that I learned from reading an article, and then you just carry that on like throughout all your other financial education systems that you can learn from. So yeah.
Nah, that's lovely. And I think just building on that knowledge and then tapping into the platform as you experience these various money moments. Daisy, thank you so much for sharing your journey, and thank you for allowing us to be with you on your journey to becoming financially savvy.
Thank you so much.
Lovely. So just hearing from some of our users in terms of their experiences, in terms of how they engage with the platform, was always great to interact directly with our users and to hear from them. Another really special person that I also wanna introduce as well is Barbara Eason. She is the student life manager at My Student House. So I met the team at My Student House at an event. The CEO was there just talking a bit about young people and some of the stresses and challenges that they have, and that they're always looking for additional support for these young people. And so I had the opportunity to engage with Barbara and of course with the CEO of My Student House. So I thought it would be great to invite Barbara. She is loved within the different buildings, absolutely loved. And just to get a sense from her, from a delivery partner point of view, what her experiences have been. Barbara, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sipo. Thank you for inviting us.
Oh, lovely, lovely, lovely. So we've been working together with you for quite some time. I know you're very passionate about the young people within your different student buildings. Overall, what's been your experience and your journey with us as a delivery partner, and I guess also other partners as you bring different resources and tools to better support some of your young people.
Well, as a partner, we will say you are the most faithful partners we've ever had. That you walk this journey with us. Our children aren't just our own. You share it with us, and you share the knowledge. You share everything with them, and it has really been I would say, a passionate relationship, really, in that our passions are similar. You, where Rieta said she was speaking at the Money Summit is where she met you, and dealing with students receiving the NSFAS amounts, it was really difficult for them. And our passion is to be able to help them stretch that money as far as they can, but use it wisely, and learn how to save for the future. And so, yes, your walk with us, or our walk with you, has been incredible. The contact, the sharing of everything. We appreciate it so much.
I think, Barbara, your perspective for me is very, very important because you actually are with the students on the ground on a daily basis. And I think you've shared a number of stories around why financial education is important. You shared an example with me, and maybe we can touch on it, of a young student that was literally starving, and that financial literacy plays a role in helping them better manage their stipend and their allowance. So on the ground, what would you say financial education is just generally important for some of your young people?
Generally, I would say it is definitely the budgeting. And it's really exciting to see the students go through the pathway and see them now budgeting, literally budgeting, because we're in the house with them, and how they go off together and they buy bulk, and how they cook together and they share the meal. That to us is very, very exciting. And then when you see them wanting to start trading, watching them do it, and how the excitement comes on our little WhatsApp groups when they're sharing, this is what I've learned and this is what I've gained. That knowledge would never have been there if we didn't have Black Bullion. And for that, they really are grateful.
No, and we're grateful to you. I think lastly, Barbara, I'm just curious about what feedback are you guys getting on the ground or within the different houses with some of your young people? And then why is it important for other organizations to consider support services like Black Bullion to come in and to help the young people better manage their money?
Is that the young people tend to come in and they really have not been taught how to deal with their money or taught to deal with money issues. They come in and they receive this amount of money. Oh, yeah, it's great. Let's spend it. Let's blow it. And then there's too much money month at the end of the money. And we're like, we need to show them that there is a way that you can stretch this. Another thing that I share with them is that they have to tell their money where they want to go. Otherwise, they're going to be wondering where the heck it went to. So it's really a positive thing that they're seeing coming out of Black Bullion. They come and they quote some of the things that you've said. They love the story about the sneakers. They're like, we want to go and find those sneakers for that hot babe. But definitely they do come in. I hold regular Thursday evenings with them, with the students, so that we can have those ones that have come in and they've literally just dipped their toe in their water. And now what? Yes, we have had inductions. Yes, we have spoken to them. But they haven't always been at the same time. But now they hear from their friends. So, tip their toe in the water, and that's when Friday off, literally mornings, I go through Black Bullion. And we see who's put their toe in the water. Let's connect with them. Let's have a look and see what were they interested in, why, and how are we going to get them further. And it's that engagement that brings them in. And it's really exciting to see those cogs turning and the gears actually meshing for them, that they're seeing what's on Black Bullion is reality. It's not just a game, it's not just fun. Those quizzes, those videos are meaningful.
Barbara, thank you so much for sharing and for being with us and for giving us an opportunity to partner up with you and being a part of the journey of some of your young students.
Thank you. Thank you
Fantastic.
very
So
much for
that was
inviting me.
Barbara from, yeah, thank you so much, Barbara. So that's Barbara from my student house, just sharing her experiences and what young people on the ground are saying about their money, about the platform, about some of the interesting challenges that they have. Sharing that sneaker story is a story we share in one of our induction sessions around the pressure around having to buy certain things in order to be able to continue forward. So we'll get into a little bit of a Q&A. I did note one or two questions that had come up in the chat. It's stuff that we had mentioned, but we're happy to delve a little bit into. But if you do have a question, a comment, please do feel free to share it in the chat as well. As I mentioned, feel free to even network if the opportunity does arise as well. So one of the questions that I did note in the chat is just around how do we engage with users outside of of the platform, which I think is super important. So Liana would have mentioned earlier on that there's quite a lot of community engaging activities that we do with users. So before users come onto the platform, we do an induction session to sort of bring them into the Black Bullion world. And this induction session is around building a relationship with your money. We do a little bit of a demo of the platform. Then outside of that, every quarter we do a webinar, whether users have access to the platform or not. So for an entire community, we do a lot of incentive campaigns, we do competitions, we do a lot on social media. So it's an opportunity to check in with the users. It's an opportunity to get feedback from them as well. And it's an opportunity to reinforce a lot of the information that comes from the platform. So a chance to re-emphasize it. So yesterday was a great example of, having a conversation around dealing with money stress and how things like having a budget, having an emergency fund can be really, really important in that journey. One other question that's come up is, I'm just going to read it here quickly. The question is, can youth get access to the platform outside of delivery partners? So yes, we do give young people access to the platform directly. So we do have what we call a microsite where young people can become a money bosser, which means they're basically taking control of their finances. So young people can get direct access to the platform as well. And through all our social media platforms, we also share what some of this information is. I'm seeing another one from Handezi. I hope I said that right. How do we manage the money we get monthly so that it can cover us until month end when we get more money as a student? So I think this is just a question around the budgeting and being intentional around your budget. How much money is coming in? How much money is going out? Where is that money actually going? So I think it just comes down to all the budgeting. So thankfully on the Black Bullion platform, we have that budgeting tool. And from that budgeting tool, you're then able to say, how much of my income is coming in and how much of my money is going out. I think that's it in terms of the questions from some of the people that have joined us. And I think that starts to bring us towards the end of the session as well. As I mentioned, we will be sharing a recording of the session. We will share some of our slides and some documentation, so you can almost delve into some of the insights and to learn a bit about some of our users and some of the work that we're doing. So our aim in 2025 is to extend access to more young people across the country, and we can only do that through collaboration. So we do hope that delivery partners and potential organizations that are interested will reach out to us. One of the ways is through Wafunda's website, which is wafunda.com. You can potentially send us an email, blackbullion@wafunda.com. We are everywhere. You could definitely find us, and we'll be sending out emails to everybody that joined the session and even those that were unable to join but asked for us to share that information with them. So thank you guys so much for joining the session. Thank you for your time. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to share the incredible journey that we're on in terms of helping young people to become financially savvy. Thank you to Sanlam Foundation for making all of this possible. And then thank you to our guests as well. Thank you to Liana for opening things for us as well. We will upload the webinar onto our YouTube channel. We'll share it as well on social media, and then we'll also share a link to the recorded session and, of course, some of our insights. So thank you guys so much for your time. We really do appreciate it. And for those that have been part of our journey in terms of helping young people to build a relationship with their finances. Thank you guys so much and enjoy the rest of the week.